So Dr. Gabe and committee, we are now live, and I'll turn it over to you to get started, Dr. Gabe.
What's up, everybody? Good to virtually see you all and to have time to hang out for another evening. I've seen a couple of you all between now and our last meeting, of course, in our full board meeting, but I was able to see Dr. Milliner at the Russell Neighborhood Block Party. That was just a fabulous time. Yeah, it was a good time. But anyway, I will get right to it. So I think the first item on our agenda, aside from the welcome, is just to look back over the meetings from last month's committee meeting. Does anybody have questions, concerns, comments about the minutes from last month? All right. I'm not hearing anything. I will assume that's no questions unless folks are looking over them. If you are good with it, could you shoot me a thumbs up? All right, look at us. Look at us. Okay, so I think I'm gonna get this right this month, y'all. I think I'm gonna get it right. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's Community Engagement Committee meeting.
I'll make a
You're
motion.
asking for a motion.
Asking for a motion.
You're asking for a motion and then a second.
Yeah. I think
I'll
Mike
make a motion.
I'll second.
So Dr. Gabe is asking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Mike made the motion. Mike made the motion and I second.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Mike and Chris.
Perfect.
Am I the only one seeing what's going on Mike's screen? So
I'm
Mike,
seeing-
Mike has been hacked.
No, my
something.
camera got a short on it.
Oh, it's your camera. Okay, that looks just like when those platforms were hacked before.
No, Miss
Okay.
Rita, Miss Rita, Mike's dancing. He's just got the best robot of all time, you know? He just
I'm finding my
robot.
inner max headroom.
Mike
All right,
takes
so
the
Mike
robot
made
very
that
seriously.
motion and Chris second.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Chair Jones is asking for all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
So the motion passes. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So
You good.
the next item on the agenda, old business. So if you all remember in our last committee meeting, we talked over the community engagement plan with Dr. Rollins and Miss Whitlock. I think I have that correct. And then we went into our full board meeting and we discussed that community engagement plan with the board. And one of the requests the board had of us was to be able to review that plan in writing. But before we get to that point, I'd actually like to pitch it to Miss Rita and or Laura to update us a little bit on some insight that we've received from our partners on how we might make our community engagement plan even better before we put it in writing to send to the board.
Okay.
So,
Laura, you
Okay,
want to go
Rita.
ahead? You
I
want
was
me to
gonna
go?
ask, why don't you go ahead
Okay.
and I'll fill in.
Okay, so last month after our meeting, we had several organizations to reach out with conversation because they were getting ready to do the same thing we were doing. If in terms of meeting in the neighborhoods, if you all remember, part of the resource information we sent out, one example was the responsible revitalization, that piece that One West did in 2019, where they were getting ready to continue with that process in terms of setting up meetings in the 9 neighborhoods to pick up where they left off and to engage with the community. So we made the suggestion, said, hey, let's talk about this, because if you guys are getting ready to do this, we're getting ready to do it. We also found out that Scott Love and his group, They are responsible within their mission for the 9 neighborhoods, and then there's 2 other neighborhoods. I think Smoketown is one, and I forget Shelby Park or Smoke is one, you know. So there's no need for us to have the residents come out for 15 different meetings. So what we suggested is that at some point we come together and that we collaborate from the standpoint identifying these community-based organizations like Center for Neighborhood, you know, even Metro may even have some services that would be relevant or helpful to the community, so that we could set up at our meetings, we could have these information tables also available. So when we do our piece in terms of collecting the feedback through the leadership of Dr. Aaron and then Miss Diana, then we could still have this array of community-based organizations so that when the residents do come out, we take care of what we need to take care of, but they also have access to all of this information in one place. So what we really want to do is make sure we take a little deeper dive to make sure we're inclusive of who those neighborhood organizations are. And so we wanted to put that on the table tonight. Laura may want to add to that in terms of the value that it brings, and include that as part of the community engagement plan. We have Dr. Aaron's proposal. We have the minutes that you all just approved that also does some highlighting in terms of information from the last meeting where Dr. Rollins and Diana were available. And now with this potential piece of having collaborators at the table, we want to put all of that under the umbrella to see with you guys if it makes sense. And then we can move to next steps. So what are your all's thoughts about that? Yes, I see that Erica mentioned, please consider appearing at neighborhood association meetings. So part of that is using the neighborhood representatives on the board, working with you guys when we get to next steps to talk about where we should have them in the neighborhood. What's part of the proposal, Mike?
Meeting with the neighborhood associations.
Yeah. To meet with yeah. So we're gonna, we just need to vet all of that to make sure that we don't leave anything undone that, makes sense for us to do with these sessions, because these sessions are going to be critical. But that's kind of what we were thinking about. And when we package all this together, that provides us the overall concept for the community engagement plan, understanding that components of this that we have to kind of drill down a little bit more, make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's so everybody's on the same page. Now, does that make sense? Thoughts? Laura? Anybody?
Just to add, to emphasize,
Laura, we can't hear you. I don't know if we lost you. Yeah, Laura is on audio, so she may, and I think she's driving, so we may have lost her for a minute. But if anybody else wants to chime in with your thoughts, for me, it's all about not duplicating efforts and to make it as easy on the residents as possible. I know we also have to work with Dr. Wade because she's going to help with the communication plan so that, this information is properly distributed within the neighborhood, in plenty of time. And so people understand what they're coming out to for these sessions. But I think we can make them comprehensive. And you guys are neighborhood members. So tell me, what do you think? Does it make sense?
This is Chris.
Chris?
I guess, so my question would be, do we then have another meeting, getting together with all these different entities to figure out exactly what it is we're asking? Are they trying to get the exact same thing, or are there different questions that are going to need to be asked, and who's going to do the facilitation, or is that all that next step stuff?
So Dr. Aaron will be the main facilitator over
Okay.
everything, because we have a responsibility to gather this feedback. Now, and Laura can speak to this. Our thought was that you have all of these collaborators, but they have like information tables during the session. It's not like every one of those organizations will be presenting. I'm sure there will be some conversation. And then the most important thing, Chris, is that I think once the information, the feedback information, we have that from the neighborhood, and Dr. Aaron and his team does the synthesizing and reporting out, then everybody or anybody can have access to that information. It's not information that we're going to try to keep to ourselves. Everybody, all of these people who work in the footprint, these nonprofits, organizations, they too need to be aware of what the priorities are for these neighborhoods as it relates to their particular mission. But we are driving this particular experience because we are required to get certain information before we can move forward with projects. Now, I don't know if we can hear Laura better now. Laura, are you back with us?
Yes, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and I do apologize for the difficulty that we're having. It as it turns out, I'm kind of on the move here, so I'm not sitting at home on Zoom. I'm having to be out. But just to emphasize, Rita, what you said previously, we are the organization that has the legal responsibility to get the feedback from the folks in the neighborhood, in our 9 neighborhoods. And that's the information that is most valuable for us coming out of these neighborhood sessions. Dr. Rollins is going to facilitate getting that information and is also going to collate it after each of these neighborhood sessions. The idea for having the other organizations like LISC or One West or other organizations with us is to make it easier on the neighborhood residents, to keep them from having to go to several meetings, since each of the organizations that will be participating is planning to do a meeting in the neighborhoods. And it's also a way for us to give them something instead of them just being under the microscope and us insisting that they share information with us. We want to make sure that we have a panorama of information at each of the sessions that we can share with them. Does that make sense to folks? Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
I mean, I think it's great to be inclusive. I think we want to get everybody on board. My only concern is, we've been talking about this for the better part of a year. We need to, get to some action at some point. So depending on what kind of delays this adds, I mean, I'm for it, but if we're months down the road still talking about, well, what are our next steps? I mean, I'm going to be concerned about that.
Okay, and Mike, I could not agree with you more. I think time is of the essence for all of us, which is why this committee had a proposal that it presented to the full board at the last meeting. The delay that we find ourselves experiencing this evening comes as a result of a few board members who had questions and were not comfortable going forward at the last meeting. We have a plan. The plan was presented at the last meeting, and the plan has been augmented with information that we're talking about with you this evening. The only thing that can delay us going forward at this point is there's some continued reluctance of the board itself to step forward. We're ready to need a vote from this committee and from the board to move forward.
Is that proposal and any other amendments going to be part of the board materials for the next meeting?
Yes, and just keep in mind that the same proposal that was distributed at the last board meeting is the heart of the proposal. The only addition is that we're going to voluntarily add community-based organizations, other community-based organizations, and community-focused organizations who want to be present in order to share information with the folks in the neighborhood. Now, if there are two organizations that want to be present, we'll go forward with the two organizations. That requires us to wait until we have 5 organizations. There's nothing that requires us to have the same organization at each of the 9 meetings. This just gives us the flexibility to partner with folks as they come up. So adding in these additions, as I've said earlier, is not going to delay anything. That's not going to.
Then, Laura, what we need from the board, first of all, we don't need approval from the board for the proposal. What we need from the board is basic support on the overall community engagement plan. Now, certainly there's going to be I'm sure a few tweaks or a few things in preparation, but that's what we're trying to accomplish here, right? Is to round this out so that we can have the support of the board so that we can move forward. So what I did, in thinking in my mind is okay, we got delayed by the board, by some board members last month. So how can we turn this into a silver lining? So that's when this opportunity for inviting people to come in, they want to work with us. I don't think the Western Opportunity Partnerships wants to be one of those kind of entities that is like, okay, no, this is just, we're going to do this. This is our information. We don't care who else is doing this. No, we do not want to duplicate efforts. We want to be true to ourselves, true to our funding, true to the residents. So if there are people in that footprint who have been working with them and they're going to set up 9 meetings, why do that? Let's work together. And like Laura said, it's not going to slow anything up. It just enhances the process. And I think the residents would be very appreciative.
Let's try this. Let's hear from everyone on this committee to see how people are feeling. What is your reaction to using the same plan that we previewed with the board last month, but opening up the possibility of including these other neighborhood-focused organizations in each of our settings to give additional information to the residents? What is the general reaction of other committee members to that?
Has his hand up.
Yes. Okay. So I think that this is a great idea, but I think what we've got to be ready for is questions coming from the board when we present this. So I think we need to get everything, I's dotted, T's crossed as far as the proposal from the mediator. And as we write this out, letting the board know that we have been approached by other entities who may want to participate. So the first thing I can imagine someone's going to ask is, are they contributing to the cost that we're going to incur? If they're not, then we need to explain how our process, we're still continuing in our manner, and we're inviting other community entities to be a part if they so choose. But this is our show, they're on our timeline. So that, you know, we don't have to worry about, well, why are they not paying anything, or why are we keeping the cost for all that? And then I think when we do the proposal, we need to make sure that we've got a timeline set up so that they can see that we're trying to, like in Mike's case, you know, for Mike's concern, that, this board is 2 years old now. We haven't done anything. And so this is actual action steps. And this is how, we want to go forward with this. I think, we made a mistake by not having something ready for the board, before they came into the meeting. So I think what we need to do out of this community engagement meeting is to make sure we've got something that we can present to them that they can vote on at the next board meeting. That's my thought. I don't know how to raise my hand back there.
Who's next?
Okay, now let me add this. Now you recollect that we did have something that we presented to people, and it was the write-up that Dr. Rollins developed. So they did have something in their hands that talked about what the community engagement would consist of.
Yes, yeah, but I think what the pushback was is that they didn't have it beforehand, and I think that's where we, made the mistake by giving it to them, asking for their vote on that day, the same day, without them really having time to ask questions. So I think this time we're a little bit better prepared. They've already seen it; they know what we're talking about, and it's not like we're actually changing anything. We're actually enhancing it, getting more community agencies involved, but it's still our show. So I think that. We can firm that up and get that out to them so that they know this is something that's going to require a vote on that Monday.
Okay. Any other comments? Mike, does it seem like we're addressing the issue that you raised?
Let's make the tent as big as we can. Let's invite, all the acts, all the players, but let's do it quickly.
Yeah. Now, part of the information to the board is that once we get their approval, the scheduling of the meetings will start immediately, and we anticipate being through with the meeting by the end of the first quarter. Okay.
And that's going to take. Go ahead, Laura. I think we're losing you again.
Oh,
what I was gonna say was that that's where we're really gonna need the neighborhood representatives on the board. Because right now, everybody needs to be thinking in your neighborhood where we can host these meetings. And maybe even reaching out, checking availability. I know we're going to get to that in next steps, but we can already be doing that, because we know we've got to do this. So we don't really have to wait till after the board meeting to start looking for identifying places and potential days of the weeks that you want to stay away from. You already know you want to stay away from Fridays. Okay. Some of them you might want to do on Saturdays, and if you do during the week, it's going to have to be, evenings, but it depends. A lot of seniors aren't going to come out at night. So we got to start thinking about those kinds of things. We can already be doing that. We don't have to wait till this concept is approved by the board, because that's what we're looking at from the board is just the approval of the concept of the plan. Not all the nuts and bolts, just the concept, because the board doesn't have to approve anything else, but we all want to be on one page or the same page. Okay. Dr. Milliner, your thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So can everyone
Gabe?
hear me? Can
Yeah,
everyone hear
Dr.
me
Gabe
again?
hasn't weighed in, Laura. Dr. Gabe hasn't weighed in.
Okay. All right.
Yep, sorry, I'll be brief. I think you all have covered all of the pertinent things. I think I am totally in line with the plan. I think this represents an improvement, especially in working with other community engaged organizations and saving time for community members and maximizing the time that they're with us. I think all of that is great. I think everything that Chris, Mike, and Dr. Milliner said were also great. My only other thing to add would just be to make sure, because in hearing what Chris said and what Miss Laura said, I can't remember exactly now what it was that postponed our ability to vote, because I thought it was them folks saying that they wanted something in writing, but I do also remember that we had something. So I can't remember precisely what they wanted in addition to what we had.
We did have the proposal in writing. The
Right.
concern was that they did not think they had enough time to review the proposal prior to the meeting.
Okay.
That was the concern.
Okay. Okay.
But now after a month, we virtually have the same proposal with one quality addition. And that one addition is the involvement of other community organizations with the partnership as the lead.
Okay. And
I did hear a request that we send out the proposal such as it was the last time, plus this addition, to board members in advance of the board meeting so they feel like they have had an opportunity to review it.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
I was thinking, I don't know if it's helpful to send out the board minutes from the last meeting with that as well. I mean, not the board minutes, but the committee meeting minutes from that last one, or just send out the proposal and this addition, Laura, or Chair Jones. What do you all think?
I think just to cover our bases, we could send it all, just to
Okay.
eliminate any possible hindrances, just so that we can make sure that we can get this thing moving. That's my opinion, at least. I don't know. I'm open to hearing everything.
And now let me suggest this too. As committee members, I think you all have a vested interest in moving this concept forward. I think that it's important for all of us who participated in these committee meetings to speak up at the board meeting and to indicate our support of the proposal. As we have been talking about delay here, and to be very frank, honest, and grown up with you, the delay has not been based on the fact that we have not had a proposal. The delay has been based on the board's reluctance to adopt the proposal. So the extent to which each member of this committee can speak up and support the proposal, I think it's going to help us get over that hump.
But I mean, in defense of that, the delay, if you don't have the information in advance, you can't really study it. So they didn't have it in time to be able to review it. If we make sure that happens now and every other time, I think we would have a lot less pushback, because people would feel like they, had more information going in.
Mm-hmm. And with the addition of those folks who attend the committee meeting need to speak up and be involved in the discussion. That's just my little modest request.
Okay. In response to Rita was talking about venues and neighborhood, like in my experience, there's pent up demand. I can't go to Portland neighborhood meeting without being asked when WEOP is coming to talk. So I think like the wheels are greased there, or the skid, whatever. That I don't think there's going to be any barrier there. Potential challenge, depending on when we get started. We've got the holidays coming up. If we just looked at first quarter, there's not 12 weeks in the quarter. There's 9 neighborhoods. That's going to be a lot of meetings back to back. I think it's doable, but it's going to be a slog.
Yeah, I think it's doable. I think it's doable.
I would like to say that I do recall that we're not all supposed to be at all of those meetings, correct? It's just the people who would be speaking and the representative for that neighborhood. And that if you wanted to go to all of the meetings, that's fine, but it's not required that we all go. So I don't
That's correct.
think it's
Yeah.
quote unquote so many meetings, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mike is onto something. You certainly, the holidays it is something to consider, because there's always a lot of extra stuff going on. But if you have 3 months, January, February, March, and you have 9 neighborhoods, certainly you can do 3 meetings a month. So you could do 3 in January, 3 in February, 3 in March. I think that's doable. Plus it gives us time to lock down the locations, and you guys can help us to identify which of the neighborhoods have association meetings, so that
Mhm.
perhaps we can do it in concert with an association meeting, because I know someone just came on chat with that. So that would give us time for all the planning for the media campaign, for all of that. So that's something, just something to consider. The other thing with regard to, and I just want to say this for total transparency, with regard to last month and the vote, one of the things, because I get the feedback from everybody, so I don't want you guys to think that the entire board did not have an issue understanding the concept of the community engagement plan. So it was not like the entire board could not vote. But even if you have one person who has a question or concern, we want to be responsive to that. So in that meeting, because I look at all the, I have to go back and look at every single recording on every meeting. So we have a couple of board members who wanted to see the plan. And even when I reach out to the whole board, I will go ahead and send out what everybody wants me to send out, but not the entire board does not necessarily always want that level of detail. There's some board members who get it from the verbal explanation, and we have to be respectful of that as well. They don't need that nuts and bolts and nitty gritty like other people. And if other people need that, then we need to provide them what they need in order for them to make an informed decision. So, we can do it however you guys want to do it as we come back, but it's the concept of the community engagement plan that we are trying to communicate to the board so that we're on the same page. It's not that we're trying to get the board to approve any aspect of the plan, any nuts and bolts. The overall concept is what we want to make sure that as a board, we're all on one accord. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So, that made sense to me. I don't know if anybody else has additional input.
So can we have another committee vote just very quickly now?
Do we need a motion?
Mhm.
I make a motion to approve the proposal with the amended changes for the next board meeting, October 28th or whatever it is.
Okay,
I second that motion.
okay. Okay. And then Mr. Chair asks for all those who are in favor.
All those who are in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
anybody opposed? Sounds good.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Mike, why don't you just send me a one-liner of your motion so that I get it 100%, okay?
Okay. You're assuming I remember it.
I mean, I sort of scribbled it down, but I know we like to be specific, so I want to make sure you send that to me, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm gonna have to get off now, but thank you
All right.
very much. All righty. Bye-bye.
Okay, so before we go, with regard to next steps, I mean, what are you guys thinking about how as neighborhood representatives we tackle coming up with maybe what? Is it possible to come up with 2 or 3 locations in each of the neighborhoods? I mean, or
Okay.
is that being, am I asking too much?
No, I think I could certainly do that. And I'm assuming you mean between now and the next committee meeting. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
I think that's reasonable for me. I won't speak for everybody else.
I think what Mike said, I mean, I don't know about all the neighborhoods, but I assume they all have a neighborhood association. They should have meetings, if not monthly, at least bi-monthly. And I feel like those are usually on a regular schedule. So, and I know in Park Duval, they're like for Mike, they're just waiting on us to say, hey, we're ready to talk to you guys.
Yeah, not all the
Yes, Chris.
neighborhoods have, but most do, and I think that would be the quickest starting point.
Yeah, I
Mike,
know.
are you suggesting that what we do is that we use the association meeting in lieu of an association meeting that they normally have scheduled, that we will be on the agenda for that, if that works out? Is that what you're saying?
If the association is in agreement with that, yes. I know
I mean,
for Portland, we have a dedicated part of the agenda every meeting assigned to speakers. And I think if we needed to gladly, well, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Portland now, because I'm no longer in leadership there. But the feeling I get is if they needed to, reschedule a meeting or take one of their meetings and give it to WEOP for their presentation, they would be willing to, if we asked, or they would suggest something else. But they're the first Tuesday of every month, 6 p.m.
Mike, can I ask a quick clarifying question? With what you're saying, are you saying that the community engagement meeting that we have discussed, well, that plan that we have discussed, when it happens in Portland, it would happen at the same time as / in place of the neighborhood association meeting? Is that what you mean? Or
The
would this be
neighborhood association agrees.
okay? Okay.
I think
So
that's what he's suggesting. It, like some of the neighborhoods have association meetings.
right.
And if we could get on the calendar when they have their meetings, because you already have residents coming out, right? For those association meetings.
It's already on everybody's calendar. There's less to plan around. Now, Gabe has mentioned in the past, we want to make sure that we create avenues for, non-regulars or, not the same people over and over. So we will have to address that. Whether that be, advertising the meeting or whatever. But I mean, I think there's a lot less wheel to be reinvented if we utilize the resources that the neighborhood associations can bring us.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Mike, how long are the neighborhood association meetings in Portland?
They run from technically the business meeting is 6:30 to 8.
Okay.
Social hour or social time is 6 to 6:30.
Okay.
You know, typically, I don't know how far in advance they have presenters scheduled, so that would be something that we would have to check. Somebody on the chat, you know, says you need to go to the meeting before you want to present to get on the next meeting's agenda. Every association is going to have different rules on how they give speakers. So, you know, that's where it's going to be a little bit of reaching out. Hey, how do your meetings work? Is there something that we can do, you know, to work together? For some it may work and for others it may not. And, you know, if they're open to working with us, you know, we'll find the path or a path.
Okay, so here's what, if I may, Dr. Gabe, here's what I would suggest to get our wheels moving. So Mike, you had made mention of a holiday, and this is October. We're talking about Thanksgiving, Christmas. So are we in agreement, or is this committee in agreement that we would look to do these 9 meetings, and then of course in the end we would have a 10th one for those who were not able to make it, but looking at January, February, March of 2024, because we're going to conclude these by the end of March. Is this committee in agreement that sounds like it's a good place to start? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up from everybody. Okay, so
Yes.
if that's the case, for the next meeting, the 9 neighborhood representatives on the board, we need each of the representatives to identify in their community the options for January, February, March. Okay, first of all, if your community has an association, that's one thing we need you to ascertain. Is there association in your community? If there is an association, what is the meeting each month? Okay, like what is the meeting time? Now, Mike, you already said it's the first Tuesday of each month at 6, did you say 6 to 8 or 6:30 to 8?
The business meetings 6:30. The people start getting there around 6, and we have food.
Okay, so we'll say like 6 to 8 p.m. Okay, so we know that Portland has an association. They meet the first Tuesday of each month, and they meet from 6 to 8 p.m. Okay, so we know that. So we need this ascertained for each of the 9 neighborhoods. You already know what location you meet at, Mike. What is the capacity? We need to know what the capacity is, because if we do a media campaign, you're going to have probably, more than likely, the idea is to have more people who normally attend those meetings. What's your average attendance at your association meetings?
Mm-hmm. And one thing to keep in mind as well, as each neighborhood representative is looking for location, we know that there are neighborhoods that do not have a neighborhood association.
Right.
For instance, in Park Hills, there's no neighborhood association to my knowledge, but there's a lot of activity that is generated by and that really surrounds McFerrin Elementary School. The community feels comfortable assembling there. So in all cases, it's not going to be a neighborhood association.
Yeah, they brought that up, Laura. That's been established. And what we were going to do was talk about the ones that do have associations, and then create the strategy for the ones that don't.
Okay.
And just a quick question for me too. If we can think of ways to just connect with those neighborhood representatives that aren't on this committee, so that we could solicit their feedback. I don't know if we want to mention it to them at the next board meeting or invite them to the next committee meeting, or how we want to do that. But we should probably think about the best way to solicit that feedback from the other neighborhood reps as well.
I think that's a good idea, Dr. Gabe. Invite them to the next committee meeting.
Okay. So maybe we can plant the seed at the board meeting so that they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then we extend an invitation to at minimum, send us their thoughts, but hopefully to actually convene with us at the next board meeting, at the next committee
Yeah.
meeting.
Because we're gonna need their help. We're gonna
Right.
need their help. And when I reached out to Gary and to Desmond today, that's one of the things I said, if they could make the meeting tonight, because we're gonna need your help in the neighborhood. So once we establish in the neighborhood, the ones that do have associations, and that's an immediate opportunity for buy-in, then we're gonna need the representatives on the board to connect, to confirm what their meeting schedule is for January, February, and March. And what I'll do is I will summarize this and email it to you guys. And then we will also reach out to the other representatives on the board, because it's going to take everybody working together on that. So we can identify what meetings are available through associations. The ones that don't have associations, we have to look at where the synergy is in that community, like Laura just mentioned about McPherson Elementary and what we do. We can take the leadership from the neighborhood rep for that particular neighborhood. Like Dr. Milliner, do you have a neighborhood association?
We have a neighborhood association and then a sub-neighborhood association that doesn't go to the neighborhood association meetings for whatever reason. So we've got two going on.
Yeah, so it may be better for California not to center the meeting with the neighborhood association.
Right.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
It's fine. I had already processed that one. I was like, yeah, that's not, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not getting in the middle of that.
Yeah.
That information's valuable, and the neighborhood reps should know the politics of those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And what else do we need to know as we're planning this for January, February, March? Not only maybe 2 or 3 locations, 2 or 3 options. We need to know the dates that are already established for meetings. I don't know, in some of the neighborhoods outside of an association meeting, maybe there's another kind of meeting that's held, because we have to be careful that we don't bump up against some other important meeting that's going on in the neighborhood at that particular point in time. And that's another aspect that we're going to be looking to the neighborhood reps to help us with. Yeah, Chris.
Do we have an idea how long we think this would take for an evening to complete one of these? Is this something that our facilitator can
hours?
possibly give us?
Okay.
Yeah, how
Right,
long
I'll
would
ask
this take? I think that'd
Okay.
be good to know when we're talking to the
Yeah.
neighborhood association. Hey, we're gonna need an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, we might need 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah. If I had to do just a guess off the top of my head, I'd say a couple of hours, but it depends.
Yes, that's what I would.
But I will
estimate.
confirm.
Here's the thought.
Laura, you're not coming
And we're,
through. We're losing you. Okay.
Oh man.
We can hear you
Can you
now.
hear me okay now?
Now we can.
At the same time, we're thinking of doing this work in the neighborhood. If we think back to Dr. Rollins' proposal, his outline of what the work would be like for us, one of the things that he was going to lead us in doing prior to having these neighborhood meetings is to develop an elevator speech and to get everyone on the same page. So there is work for us to do as a board with Dr. Rollins prior to the first of the year. Work
Yes.
we can do in maybe 2 sessions at the max. So if we're talking about the best way to utilize our time and taking into account the holidays, we still may have time for us to do our pre-work between now and the end of the year.
In the chat, it says Shawnee Neighborhood Association is willing to coordinate because our members are always asking for information. So with regard to Alicia Burns being our representative for Shawnee, Erica would be a good contact for Alicia to work with. And Erica, if that's okay, I'm gonna make that connection for you two. She said absolutely. So that's good.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Chair, we've completed our voting on the motion, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And
Okay,
go ahead.
And
I'm
the
sorry.
motion, what are we missing, you guys? What are we missing? Anything else at this point? I'm gonna put everything together that will be part of the board packet. Okay, and make sure I get that to Laura so that we have the comprehensive information that goes out to the board. And so when we get there Monday, the whole emphasis is to get buy-in for the concept and keep it moving. And then Dr. Gabe, you'll have the information from this meeting for your update. Is there anything else we're missing or you all thinking about that we need to? Okay, Scott Love, as a potential community partner, what is the format for the evening? Scott, we're going to get with you on that. Okay. Yeah, we just need to get past this meeting tonight, but we're going to get with you on that. Okay. So thanks everyone. Okay.
Thank you for being here,
Good
Scott.
deal.
Appreciate that, Mr. Love.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any input before we close? Miss Rita, Miss Laura, y'all got anything else?
I think we've covered everything. We're in a good spot now.
I think so. And so
Mike,
this-
don't forget to send me your motion as you want it stated, okay? And then I'll circle back to you on an edit on the finance committee meeting that came up today.
all right. And
Okay.
so I request a motion to adjourn.
Or you can assume the motion by
All right,
saying the
cool.
motion is on adjournment.
Cool.
All those in favor?
All
Yeah,
right.
you don't even have to request. You can just say meeting adjourned.
We out of here.
Okay. All
Meeting
right.
adjourned,
Thank you
everybody.
guys, everybody. If you think about anything that you want to add as we're collating all this information, shoot me a text or an email, okay?
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Okay. Good night,
Thanks.
y'all.
Good night.